Mike. I'm so glad you're with us today. But listen, Mike, the big thing in the news right now, and I'd love your comments and insight on it, is the Ray Price case where this NFL football player decked his wife in an elevator. Janae Palmer, I think was her name. I mean, decked her, knocked her out cold. And, of course, the NFL's dealing with all this. Do you have some thoughts? You have some insight? You have some scoop for us?
I want to know where the evolutionist and atheist community is on this, Carl. I mean, why aren't they coming out and rallying in support of this football player?
You know what? I know where you're going to go with this, and I have argued this for years. So you go off. You go off on this, because right now listeners are saying, "What? I can't believe he said that." But explain yourself.
Well, according to deep time evolution, Carl, the weaker animal must always submit to the stronger, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, right. And that often results in the weaker animal losing its life, right?
Exactly. So why don't the evolutionists say, "Way to go, Ray Price"?
Well, right. If the animal's weak and it can't defend itself, that's a good thing, because then that weakness doesn't get passed on to the next generation, right?
That's right. And listen, folks that are listeners, I want you to hear Mike and I. Now, we're being sarcastic. We do not advocate the beating of women. We're showing you how ridiculous this pseudoscience of evolution is, because evolution declares that this is the way life works. If you don't have God, you don't have moral absolutes. You don't have a moral base. Who are we to say that Ray Price can't beat this woman up if he wants to? If he's the strongest of the species, then she just has to go away. That's how evolution works. So you see, evolution proposition is what brought about the Nazi Holocaust, and it also can prop up the worldwide abuse of women and children, because according to evolution, there's no God. There's nobody to say that beating up a child or beating up a woman is wrong. They're the weaker of the species. So evolution is just taking place. Am I right, Mike?
Well, I mean, we've all seen first of all, according to God, as you know, Carl, women are not animals and deserve honor and respect.
Right, and they're not second-class citizens.
Right, and the debate over whether or not athletes should be eliminated for punching out their wives is the same debate over whether or not women are animals with no transcendental value. If they're only animals, and if the atheists are correct, then women have much to fear indeed, Carl.
Right.
And in the evolutionary model, there is no moral requirement for which keeps men from behaving badly.
That's right.
And I gotta mention this also. Listening to Fox News and CNN and all these guys discuss the wife beating incident, I can't help wondering, Carl, about all the stories of atheists attempting to remove God from American culture. Without godly moral instruction which gives women equality with men, football players have no moral reason to refrain from acting like animals, beating their wives into submission.
Well,
the atheists are borrowing from God when they rise up with righteous indignation.
And let me break in and say to that listener who might say, oh, yes, they do have a moral imperative. It's called the law. And I would say, really? What about Sharia law? Sharia law is all over the world, and Sharia law says you can beat your wife. Sharia law says you can cut her head off if she doesn't do what you want her to do. Sharia law is the law. So, I mean, if you're going to argue law, or do you want to argue absolute morality? Now, if you argue absolute morality, you have to go back to the existence of God.
And for all animals, listen, why is it okay for men to have sex with men using the excuse homosexuality is rampant throughout the animal kingdom, and yet it's not okay for men to abuse their wives when that also is rampant throughout the animal kingdom? I mean, have you ever seen a lion violently drive a lioness into a submissive posture? I mean, men beating their wives in the animal kingdom is commonplace.
Yes.
And yet we rise up with righteous indignation against animals beating their spouses, beating their breeding partners in an elevator. Where is the outcry against teaching children in school that they're nothing but animals made out of meat? And then when they grow up and they get into college and they get into university and they start playing professional football and they act like animals, we go, wow, we got to kick this guy out because he's acting like an animal. Well, listen, he was taught that he's an animal, but now we have this guy. His wife is saying, look, let's shut down all of the talk here. My husband is going back to God. And he's saying, I repent for my actions against my wife. I repent for this. I was an alcoholic, drank too much.
But they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear the God word.
No, but now we have this guy doing this, turning to God to put a stop to it.
Right.
Now, if he reverses course and embraces atheism again, the atheist community and the evolutionist community, the community out there, and the media, which quite frankly is guilty of malpractice, they have no business coming out and saying, "Oh my gosh, we got to put an end to this. We got to put a stop to this." You cannot put a stop to it without putting a stop to the system that is teaching this activity to them, namely the public school system, teaching them that they're nothing but animals.